tell we've got a lot of slackers, you know.
Yeah.
No, they're absolutely awesome bunch.
Well, thanks so much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys and share a little bit of my story. I kind of figured if I can share some of what I was thinking about when I was your age, and if it helps you, I hope today is beneficial. I want to compliment you guys for all the great awards that you've won since, I know, 2006. You guys weren't a part of that, but recently the Distinguished Unit. It's very impressive. When I read that in the paper, it always just makes me well up with some pride to know that our high school is recognized nationally, and you guys have done a great job. Appreciate your dedication. It was great to hear when you came to the board meeting, I guess last month,
Right.
and share with us just kind of what's going on here with ROTC. I really appreciate what you're doing in the school and community. I really feel like that you guys have a greater mission than even what's going on just with yourselves and in this room. I really appreciate what you do in our school in terms of leadership and creating some values that we need in our school. I kind of am concerned about what's happening with kind of the forces of good and evil, if you will, however you want to phrase that. And I know that you guys are really some light in our school. I appreciate what you're doing in terms of leadership and influencing others to go in the right direction. So thanks so much for what you do here in our school. Let me just take some time and kind of talk about my background and kind of where I came from and what I'm doing now. And then I want to share just a few things in regard to leadership, and then would like to do a Q&A for a little bit if there's some questions. And then after that, I've got a little exercise where I want some input from you guys. Would like to hear some of the things that you're seeing and thinking and solutions that you might have in regard to the high school in our district. So I'm from Kansas. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Kansas,
I grew up in Topeka.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Where are you from?
Well, I went to Washburn for
Did you really?
Yes, I did. The Ichabods.
Yeah.
So I grew up, for your benefit, I grew up born in Girard, but then we moved to Kingman, which is kind of central Kansas, and we did a lot of wheat farming and that kind of stuff, and then moved to Hiawatha, which is in northeast Kansas, as you know. So my dad was a coach when I was growing up, so I grew up on the football field as the ball boy and hanging out at track meets and football games and all that kind of stuff when he was coaching, which was great. And then he became a Methodist pastor later on, and so I was a PK, preacher's kid, growing up, so with all those challenges and expectations that people would place on me. I was just trying to think in high school what I was thinking about when I was you guys' age, and kind of, you know, what my ambitions were and hopes and dreams. And like many of you, I was thinking, well, I definitely want to go beyond high school, want to get a college degree, saw that as an opportunity and a for sure thing that I wanted to make sure I set myself up for success by going to college. And so I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I ended up at Washburn University studying criminal justice. Not exactly sure how I landed that one. Did that for 2 years, and was playing some football there. And then made a decision to change and go to Kansas State University after that. And it was at Kansas State, I was actually working on a sheep farm, believe it or not, paying my way through college, working on this kind of like a research farm there connected with Kansas State. And it was there that I went to a retreat, like a weekend retreat down in near Branson, Missouri, with a youth group that I really felt called to work at a camp or a retreat conference center. And so that was kind of a big turn for me in my life when I was there at Kansas State. And so I got a park resource management degree while I was there at Kansas State, and wanted to either go into camping or work in the National Park Service or something like that. And that didn't work out as well because at that time it was hard to get hired. Believe it or not, as a white male coming out of college, they were looking more for minorities and women and those kinds of things. And so didn't get hired into either the Forest Service or National Park Service, which I think, you know, was divine anyway. And we ended up going to California, and I was teaching outdoor education out there in California, Southern California, at a camp, and we did that a few years. And then a friend of mine told me about this position here in Prescott in 1995. Moved to Prescott to work at UCYC, United Christian Youth Camp. We're just off of Copper Basin Road near the Hacienda Golf Club, which is going to be called the Capital Canyon Club, I guess, here real soon. But so I've been there for 20 years, and it's pretty amazing. When I took the job, I committed to 3 years, thinking, well, I'll try to do this for 3 years and see what happens. And here we are 20 years later. And you know, that organization's been great to work there. When I came, it was a $400,000 annual budget that we had in 1995. And this year, we're going to do just over $3 million in revenue. And so it's been a crazy ride, very exciting, great opportunity to lead teams and to develop the team there at UCYC. And just so you kind of have a better idea of what we do, we have 700 beds currently, and we do a lot of summer camps where kids come in for 4 to 5 days at a time, and we do all the programming, you know, bring in the speakers and the bands and create all the activities and lead all the activities. We have a lot of high adventure stuff at UCYC where we've got climbing walls, zip lines. We have a giant 3-person swing.
Yeah, we actually went out there 3 years,
Okay.
years and 5 years, 7 years. We've done that
Great.
2 or 3 times, honestly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and we'd love to have you guys back anytime. We love to have groups out that, you know, want to do some leadership development, team building kind of stuff. We're excited to do that for groups here in town. So we'll have 7,000 summer campers, you know, in about 2 months. And then the rest of the year we'll have 7,000 to 8,000 campers that come primarily weekends, where they'll come for like a Friday to Sunday. We do some weekdays, but typically it's a weekend kind of group. So enough about all that. That's kind of UCYC and how I got to Prescott. I wanted to talk just a little bit about some leadership concepts that have been helpful to me personally, and I just have 4. The first one that I wrote down here as I was thinking about what's been important to me and helpful is, you know, as education's a very important thing, and I appreciate as you guys go around the room, you're talking about moving on to get either a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate, and I think that's excellent. You need to do that. But I think in addition to an education, you've got to know how to develop and maintain relationships. I've always said that if you can work with people, you can do anything. And maybe some of you are trying to look for jobs where you don't have to work with a lot of people, I don't know. But I just have really felt like if you get along well with people, if you can lead people and motivate people, and they want to be around you and be doing what you're doing, and you can motivate people and work well with people, you can do anything. And so I would just encourage you here in high school that you develop all kinds of relationships with all different kinds of people and really learn about them and what makes them tick and what's important to them and what do they value, and really get to know them and learn how to work with lots of different people. And how do I motivate them? How do I relate to them? And I think it's very, very important that with relationships, you don't just work with your little monoculture of people, that you really broaden and relate to all different kinds of people. Now, in a social media era, I see we've got some social media challenges. I think it's so important that we don't lose the art of being able to converse face to face. You know, so many times we rely on devices to communicate, and I know it has its place and it's important, But I just want to encourage you, when I talk about relationships, I'm really talking about these kinds of relationships where we're sitting face to face and we're conversing and listening and talking. And I think it's just so important that as leaders, you understand lots of different people, know how to develop and maintain those relationships, and work with lots of different kinds of people. Secondly, I would just say it's kind of related to relationships, but as a leader, you have to have very effective listening skills. And I think we have lost the art of listening. And I'm talking about active listening. When I say active listening, many times when people are talking, you're thinking, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? And that's what's going through your mind, and you're not necessarily listening to what they're saying. And I think it's important that you're actively listening, and then once they're done, you repeat back, well, what I heard you say was, or you ask a related question of what they were talking about to clarifying questions. So it's really important. Communication is so important, and you guys have already been drilled on communication, I'm sure, but I think listening is so important. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, I believe. And I think we don't listen well enough. And so many bad things can happen if we misinterpret or misunderstand what's being said. And we could go off on a whole different wrong tangent if we don't actually listen to what's being said. So I think active listening is so important as a leader, asking those clarifying questions, and really paying attention to what the person is saying and not worried about what I'm going to say next. The third thing I would say is that we need to be visionaries as leaders. An effective leader is a visionary who can visualize what that new reality is going to be and to bring it to life to the team. You've got to be able to visualize where we want to go, what we want this new reality to be, and then you have to come back to your team and be able to articulate what you saw. What was that vision that you saw? And come back to the team and begin leading them in little steps of how are we going to get to this new reality. It's so important that as effective leaders that we crawl up the tree and look out and see what's coming, what's ahead, and visualize where do we need to go, and what is this new reality that we need to create. So as leaders, we can't be so focused on the here and now that we lose track of where we want to be long range. This is something with the school board that's really concerning to me, that was part of my platform when I ran, and that is a long-term strategic plan. Many times we get in the weeds with the state's cutting our budget, and we're going to have to cut our budget next year. And I think, not to be critical of current leadership, but my platform, I want to really focus on what can we do where do we want to be 5 years from now and farther out. So important as leaders that we're looking farther out than just the here and now and what are we going to do tomorrow or even next year. I think that's really important. The final thing that I think is, for me, the most important as leadership is servant leadership. I'm a person of faith, and so I'm going to use Jesus as an example for me. He is, for me, the ultimate servant leader. He's somebody that, while he professed to be God when he was here on earth, he took the time to wash people's feet. And if you understand this concept, back in that day, people wore sandals all the time, and they walked everywhere, right? And so, when you get to somebody's home for dinner, your feet would just be a mess, just sweating and dirty and stinking and nasty. And when you came to someone's home, one of the first things that would happen is a servant would come and take off your sandals and wash your feet before you sat down to dinner, because their tables were much lower and you reclined, so your feet were kind of next to the person next to you, and so in order for them not to throw up while they were trying to get dinner smell on your feet, that's the first thing that would happen, is the servant would greet you and take your sandals off and wash your feet. Yet Jesus did that for his own followers. And what a picture for me of servant leadership. We have to be able to lead people in a way that we're willing to do whatever we would ask them to do. And we need to be able to come down to any level and work with people and serve people in a way that they understand that we really care. And I think that's what servant leadership is about, is showing that you care. It's not sitting in some high office, giving orders and glorifying your title. It really, to me, is about coming down to whatever level where people need encouragement and support and help, and showing them that you care and that you love them and that you want to serve them. And so servant leadership for me has been really, really important, because I think that really motivates people. When we talked about relationships earlier, when you want to motivate people, you need to come down to their level and show them that you care and serve. I really appreciate what you guys are doing in the community with service, whether it's reading or whether it's doing the color guard or those kinds of things. I really appreciate, I know when you came to the board meeting, you were just sharing some of the different things you're doing in the community, and I think that's excellent. That kind of service is servant leadership, in my view. We're willing to come down and serve others and help others out at whatever level, and show them that you care. So servant leadership for me is really important. I think as a leader, that makes you very effective if you're willing to serve others that are following you. The last thing I want to share is a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. I don't know how much time
We've got till 9:05.
Okay,
Is
perfect.
that right? 9:05?
Okay.
We're like 9:02.
Yeah.
9:02, because we're in the corner of the
45
campus.
minutes.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, I don't want to drone on too long
No,
here. I
you're
want to
fine.